Riley Cooper had never believed her life would turn into a bargain. Yet here she was, standing at the altar in a lace dress that wasn't hers, waiting to marry a man she had never met, all to save her mother's life. The air inside the small chapel felt too still, too silent. The flicker of candles made shadows dance on the walls like ghosts mocking her decision. She kept her chin high, trying not to think about her father's cold eyes or Rebecca's satisfied smirk when she had agreed to the deal. She repeated the words in her mind. It's for Mom, just for Mom. But as the doors creaked open, her heart skipped a beat. The man walking toward her was not the desperate, ruined criminal Rebecca had described. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and unnervingly composed. His black suit fit perfectly, his eyes an icy blue that made her spine tighten. He carried himself with quiet authority, like someone who had once owned the world and was determined to take it back. That had to be Derek Barker, the man she was about to marry. He paused in front of her, those piercing eyes studying her face, as though trying to solve a puzzle. Riley forced herself not to look away. His jaw clenched slightly, but he offered no smile, no greeting, just a nod to the priest. "Let's get this over with," Derek said, his voice deep, controlled, and strangely calm. Riley swallowed the sting in her chest. So that's how it's going to be. Fine. She didn't need warmth from him, only his signature on the marriage license. The ceremony was painfully short. The priest spoke softly, his voice echoing against the stone. When Derek reached for her hand, his touch was firm, almost unyielding. She caught a whiff of his cologne, clean, masculine, faintly bitter like cedarwood. When he slid the ring onto her finger, she noticed his hand trembled just once. It wasn't nerves. It was something else. Anger, maybe. Or regret. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." The words felt heavy, unreal. Riley exhaled quietly, still half expecting someone to shout that it was a mistake. But no one did. The priest signed, the witnesses stamped their names, and Derek Barker became her husband. Outside, the drizzle had turned into a steady rain. Riley lifted her hem as they walked toward a sleek black car parked by the curb. Derek held an umbrella above her, but the silence between them was louder than the rain. "I suppose we should talk," she said finally. "Not here," he replied curtly, opening the car door. Inside, the air smelled of leather and cold rain. Derek sat beside her, his gaze fixed on the window. "I'm guessing Rebecca told you everything?" he asked. "If by everything you mean that you're broke, disgraced, and freshly out of prison?" "Then yes," Riley answered with a sharp edge. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "And yet you still showed up." "She gave me no choice," Riley muttered. "My mother's dying. They promised to pay for her treatment if I married you." Derek turned his head slowly, his eyes narrowing. "So they used your mother to force you into this?" Riley crossed her arms. "Don't act surprised. You're part of the bargain." He didn't reply. His expression softened almost imperceptibly, and for the first time, Riley saw something human behind the stone facade, something haunted. They drove in silence until the city lights faded and long stretches of countryside began to appear. Eventually, the car turned down a narrow road lined with trees. A massive iron gate opened, revealing an estate that looked both elegant and neglected. The mansion loomed in the distance, gray against the wet sky. "This is your home?" Riley asked. "For now," he said quietly. "Ours, technically." The word ours sounded foreign in his mouth. Inside, the mansion smelled faintly of dust and rain. Most rooms were dimly lit, the furniture covered with white sheets like memories waiting to be forgotten. Derek led her to a grand staircase and gestured toward the hallway upstairs. "You can take the room at the end. It's been cleaned." "You mean the guest room?" He hesitated. "Call it whatever you want." When he turned to leave, she called after him, "Why me?" He stopped but didn't face her. "Why go through with the wedding? You could have refused." Derek's shoulders stiffened. "Because promises still mean something to me," he said, then walked away. The days that followed were quiet, almost eerie. Riley spent most of her time in the library or by the large window overlooking the garden. She rarely saw Derek. He disappeared early in the morning and returned late at night, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his expression unreadable. She told herself not to care, not to wonder where he went. But curiosity was a stubborn thing. One evening, she decided to follow him. Dressed in her coat, she slipped out the back door and followed the faint sound of an engine. Derek's car stopped near an old barn behind the estate. Inside, dim light glowed from a single lamp. Peeking through a crack in the wooden wall, Riley froze. Derek was standing over a long table filled with blueprints, legal documents, and photographs. On one of the papers, she caught a glimpse of the Barker Industries logo, the company that had disowned him. He was talking quietly into a phone. "No, I don't care what the board says. They stole what my father built, and I'll take it back, even if I have to burn every bridge." Riley's heart pounded. This wasn't a man defeated by scandal. He was planning something dangerous. She stepped back, but the floor creaked. Derek turned sharply, his blue eyes locking on her through the shadows. "Riley?" Her breath caught. I was just walking." He approached slowly, the lamplight highlighting the tension in his face. "You shouldn't be here." "You're planning something," she said. "You're not broke, are you? You're rebuilding." His jaw tightened. "You shouldn't ask questions about things that don't concern you." "Oh, I think they do concern me. I'm your wife, remember?" He stared at her for a long moment before sighing. "Come inside. If you're going to spy on me, you might as well know the truth." Inside the barn, she saw a wall covered with photos and notes, names of people, companies, and court documents. "My father's company was taken from me," Derek began, his tone low but steady. "They accused me of fraud, but it was a setup. My business partner forged documents and framed me. I took the blame to protect someone." "Who?" Riley asked. His eyes darkened. "My twin brother, Daniel." Riley froze. "You have a twin?" "Had," he corrected quietly. "He died 6 months ago, car accident. And before he died, he confessed to everything, but by then it was too late. My name was ruined." He turned toward her, eyes cold. "Now you know my secret." Riley swallowed hard. "You protected him even after he destroyed your life." Derek's voice wavered for the first time. "He was my brother. I thought family meant something." Riley looked away, her throat tightening. "Sometimes family means pain." The silence between them stretched, two wounded souls bound by betrayal. When their eyes met again, something shifted. Not affection, not yet, but recognition. Like they saw their own scars reflected in each other. Over the next weeks, their uneasy truce began to change. Derek no longer hid in his office. He started joining her for breakfast, walking through the gardens with her, asking about her mother's health. Riley noticed the gentleness in him, the way he listened, the way his voice softened when he spoke her name. One evening, as the first snow began to fall, Riley found him in the barn again. This time, he wasn't surrounded by papers but sitting alone, staring at the lamp. "You look like you're carrying the world on your shoulders," she said softly. He gave a faint smile. "Maybe I am." "Then share the weight." He looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his gaze melted. "You don't know what you're asking. Try me." He stood, walking closer until they were only inches apart. "Everyone who's ever loved me ended up hurt. I can't do that to you." Riley met his eyes without fear. "Then don't." He exhaled shakily. You don't understand. I understand enough, she interrupted. You're not the monster they said you were. You were just broken by people you trusted. I get that. Something inside him cracked. His hand brushed hers, hesitant, trembling. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. You shouldn't make me hope again, Riley. Maybe hope is all we have left. That night, he kissed her, softly, like someone afraid the moment would vanish. It was both an apology and a promise, and for the first time, Riley felt warmth instead of fear. But peace never lasted long. A week later, the news exploded across every financial network. Barker Industries to be investigated again. Anonymous sources claim fraudulent comeback attempt. Riley found Derek in the study, surrounded by scattered papers, fury etched into his face. They're framing you again, she said, her heart racing. He nodded grimly. Rebecca and Anthony are behind this. They leaked my plans. I trusted the wrong person. What? But why would they? Because they wanted the money from my patents. Your father invested in my rival company years ago. If I rebuild, they lose everything. Riley's knees weakened. So they used me to get to you. He looked at her sharply. Did you know? She shook her head, tears burning her eyes. No, I swear, I didn't. I want to believe you, he said, voice breaking. But everyone I've ever trusted. She stepped forward, taking his hands. Then start again. With me. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then slowly, he pulled her into his arms. You shouldn't have to fix my war. Maybe I want to. Days turned into chaos. Investigations reopened, reporters camped outside the mansion, and Rebecca's smug interviews filled the news. But Riley refused to back down. She gathered documents from Derek's archives, pieced together evidence from Daniel's confession, and presented everything to a lawyer. Weeks later, the court cleared Derek's name completely. The Barker name was restored. When the verdict came, Derek stood in silence, staring at the papers like they were written in another language. Riley touched his arm gently. It's over, she whispered. He turned to her slowly, his eyes glistening with something she hadn't seen before. Peace. No, he said softly. It's finally beginning. That night, back at the estate, the snow fell heavier, covering the gardens in white. Derek stood by the fireplace, a quiet smile playing on his lips. Riley entered quietly, holding 2 mugs of coffee. So, Mr. Barker, what's next? He looked at her, the fire reflecting in his eyes. You tell me, Mrs. Barker. She laughed. That still sounds strange. Maybe, but I like it. He reached for her hand, pulling her closer. You changed everything, Riley. You gave me back more than my name. You gave me a reason to live. Her throat tightened. And you gave me a reason to believe that love can survive even the worst bargains. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. It wasn't a bargain, not anymore. It was fate. Then he kissed her again, slow, deep, and certain. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft and endless, as if the world itself wanted to give them a clean start. And for the first time since the day she walked down that cold aisle, Riley felt free. Not from the past, but because she had found someone who saw her, truly saw her, beyond the deal, beyond the pain. In that moment, she realized something profound. Sometimes the wrong wedding can lead to the right forever.